हाँ जी, सारिਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ। ਕੀ ਹਾਲ ਹੈ? ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਹੋ? ਠੀਕ ਹੋ? ਉਮੀਦ ਹੈ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਚੜ੍ਹਦੀ ਕਲਾ 'ਚ ਹੋਗੇ, ਠੀਕ ਠਾਕ ਹੋਗੇ, ਰਾਜੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ ਹੋਗੇ। ਅਸੀਂ ਵੀ ਠੀਕ ਠਾਕ ਹਾਂ, ਰਾਜੀ ਖੁਸ਼ੀ 'ਚ ਹਾਂ। ਮੌਸਮ ਕਾਫੀ ਚੇਂਜ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕਾ ਹੈ, ਸਰਦੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਜਿਵੇਂ ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਦਸਤਕ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀ ਹੈ। ਬਰਸਾਤਾਂ ਕਾਫੀ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਚੁੱਕੀਆਂ ਅਤੇ ਇਹੀ ਬਰਸਾਤਾਂ ਹੁਣ ਬਾਅਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਨੋਫਾਲ 'ਚ ਕਨਵਰਟ ਹੋਣਗੀਆਂ। ਅਤੇ ਇੰਡੀਆ 'ਚ ਵੀ ਮੌਸਮ ਕਾਫੀ ਬਦਲ ਚੁੱਕਾ। ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੀਵਾਲੀ ਦੁਸਹਿਰਾ ਜਦੋਂ ਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਕੋਲ ਮੌਸਮ ਕਾਫੀ ਬਦਲ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਅਤੇ ਚਲੋ ਇਹੀ ਜੀਵਨ ਹੈ, ਇਹੀ ਰੀਤ ਹੈ, ਇਹੀ ਮੌਸਮ ਹੈ, ਇਹੀ ਸਭ ਕੁਛ ਮੈਂ ਕਹਾਂਗੀ ਹੈਗਾ। ਅਤੇ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਲੋਗ ਹੈ, ਇਹ ਵਲੋਗ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈ ਐਡਨਬੈਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਹਿਪ ਹੌਪ ਬੱਸ ਲਈ ਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਾਰੇ ਜੋ ਵੀ ਟੂਰਿਜ਼ਮ ਦੇ ਜਾਂ ਅਟਰੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਪੁਆਇੰਟਸ ਨੇ ਐਡਨਬੈਰੀ ਦੇ, ਉਹ 20 ਮਿੰਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੇ ਇੱਕ ਰਾਊਂਡ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿਖਾ ਦਿੰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਮਰਜ਼ੀ ਉਤਰੋ, ਆਪਣੀ ਫੋਟੋ ਲਓ, ਫਿਰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਚੜ੍ਹ ਜਾਓ, ਇਟਸ ਅਪ ਟੂ ਯੂ। ਅਤੇ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਹ ਲਈ ਸੀ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਵਲੋਗ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਟ੍ਰੇਨ ਦਾ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਇਨਵੈਨਿਸ ਤੋਂ ਐਡਨਬੈਰੀ ਵੀ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਆਉਣਾ ਜਾਂ ਕਿੱਦਾਂ ਆਉਣਾ, ਉਹ ਪਾਇਆ ਸੀ। ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਲੋਗ ਆਏਗਾ ਉਹ ਵੋਕਿੰਗ ਦਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਐਡਨਬੈਰੀ ਦਾ ਵੀ। ਅਸੀਂ ਵੋਕਿੰਗ 'ਚ ਗਏ, ਕਿੱਥੇ ਕੀ ਕੀਤਾ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੈਲਪਫੁਲ ਹੋਏਗਾ, ਉਮੀਦ ਹੈ। ਕਿਉਂਕਿ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਲੋਗ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਲੱਭੇ ਨਹੀਂ ਬੱਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ, ਕਿਵੇਂ ਵੀ ਕੀ ਦਿਖਾਉਂਦੇ ਨੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਈਜ਼ੀ ਰਹੇਗਾ। ਸੋ ਹੋਪ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਜੋ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਸੀ ਮੈਂ ਉਸ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਬਣਾ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ। ਅਤੇ ਪਲੀਜ਼ ਕਮੈਂਟ ਕਰਕੇ ਦੱਸਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਰੋ, ਮੈਨੂੰ ਸੁਜੈਸਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਰੋ ਵੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇਖਣੀ ਪਸੰਦ ਹੈ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਲੋਗ ਦੇਖਣੇ ਪਸੰਦ ਨੇ, ਜਾਂ ਕੀ ਚੀਜ਼ ਮੈਂ ਇੰਪਰੂਵ ਕਰਾਂ ਕਿ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਅੱਛੇ ਲੱਗਣ। ਅਤੇ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟਰੈਵਲ ਸੀਰੀਜ਼ ਆ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਵੀ ਯੂਰਪ ਦੀ ਹੀ ਹੈ, ਅਕਤੂਬਰ ਦੇ ਮੰਥ ਦੀ। ਚਲੋ ਆਓ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਇਹਦਾ ਆਨੰਦ ਲਈਏ ਅਤੇ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਲੋਗ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਉਹ ਮੇਰਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਵਾਕਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਐਡਨਬੈਰੀ ਦਾ। ਆਓ ਇਹਦਾ ਇੰਜੋਏ ਕਰੀਏ, ਆ ਜਾਓ ਜੀ।
Windows. Also here, fake windows. Blocked up to avoid paying the window tax. If you had so many windows in your house, you had to pay more tax. So they simply blocked them up and painted them on. Do you know what the window tax was known as? This is my last one, I promise you, right? Daylight robbery. That's the last one. This is Charlotte Square, World Heritage Site. Private garden. Excuse me, private garden. You have to live within the square to get a key, and it will cost you £850 a year. The building here, with the blue door on the right-hand side, is where Alexander Graham Bell was born. He was trying to invent a hearing aid for his mum, and the first words ever said over a telephone were, "Come here, Mr. Watson, I want to see you." Now, this is opened just after the Napoleonic War. This is Charlotte Square, World Heritage Site. I've lived here since it was opened. I know I'm looking well, go back to the Beltane Festival, and I'm going to invite you to my house to a party. None of the houses were numbered. I would send you a calling card. On it would be a picture of the sunburst pattern over my door. They are all different. The doors are also wide to allow a sedan chair to be carried up, and the ladies to exit via the large outer hallway. It's Prince Albert in the middle, the husband of Queen Victoria. She unveiled that statue. We also have a very important house here. We have number 6 Charlotte Square. It is called Butte House. This is our Downing Street. This is our White House. And it's just come into view on the left-hand side. It's got a black door. You can go and knock on the door and say, "Are you in the club? Can I get a cup of tea?" There you go, Butte House. Now, a couple of years ago, I was coming round on my tour, and our new Prime Minister Boris Johnson came round here, right? I held up my tour, cheek of the man. My tour was full of people from the north of England. They don't like Boris. And they were all cheering and waving at Boris. Let's just leave it at that, shall we? They were cheering and waving so much you had to leave by the back door on the left-hand side. We're going down to the edge of Edinburgh New Town. This is where the New Town finished. I'll point something out to you. There's a barber shop. See the barber shop on the right hand side with the door open? Now, I don't think you need a haircut. I think you all look lovely. If you go in there, you're not going to get a haircut. You may come out half cut. This is a secret bar. Oh, your faces are lighting up now. You're paying attention now, aren't you? You go down there into the barber shop. There's a bookcase. Pull it open. There's a 1920s speakeasy bar hidden underground. Oh, yes. And it's sell barber shop chairs. It's great. Great fun. It's not too dear. Yes, yes. When she speaks to me, she's too busy building her broomsticks today. She told me just about the right price for buildings in this square. This one on your left, that was as well a bank headquarters, a bank called the British Linen Bank. No longer financial centre. It's now about high-end shopping. It's about eating and drinking with these pubs and restaurants at this side of the square. And last November, here on your left, Gordon Ramsay opened his restaurant. My goodness, how did we cope in Edinburgh before we had a Gordon Ramsay restaurant? Offering you the chance to buy beef Wellington for £50 each. Somebody once described beef Wellington to me as stew in a cake, which I think is the best description of food I've ever heard. Gordon Ramsay is Bread Street, it's called. He's just about to open another burger restaurant, which is basically hamburgers, called Street Burgers, and that's going to be in our new shopping centre. That's going to be open quite soon. And then if you know the Australian television series Neighbours, yep, well, see, I think he's missed an opportunity here. He's called it Street Burgers. If he called it Ramsay Street Burgers, a massive tie-in with Australian television. Or because it's hamburgers, call it the Ramsay McDonald's. Right, coming down to Princes Street, on the other side of the road is the Scott Monument, 200 feet and 6 inches tall, 288 steps to the top, erected to the memory of Sir Walter Scott, lawyer, judge, writer, anthologist, wine merchant, inventor. He invented the genre of historical fiction. He also invented the myth of the noble romantic Highlands and the myth of the noble romantic Highlander. He invented Highland dress, and he gave us the Scottish tourism industry. People didn't come to Scotland before Scott's books. When they read them, they wanted to come here, and the same thing's happening now to an equally fictitious Scotland in the Outlander television series and the Outlander books. Now, and we're very grateful to, is it Diane Gabaldon, is that her name? And to Walter Scott for what they've done for the tourist industry in Scotland. On the left-hand side, the two galleries. The one at the back there is the Scottish National Gallery, designed by William Henry Playfair, opened in 1856. This one on Princes Street is the Royal Scottish Academy, also by Playfair, 30 years earlier. The back building got the interior, and the front building got the exterior. Coming to the West Gardens. Now, these gardens are public, anybody can use them. In 1850 they were still private, and a man called the Reverend Thomas Guthrie, he petitioned on behalf of a society called the Scottish Association for the Suppression of Public Drunkenness to open these gardens to the general public so working men would have somewhere to go other than the alehouses for recreation. A great idea, said the authorities. We'll open them on Christmas Day, New Year's Day and Good Friday. Was steepled. Excuse me. Also in that church, there's a magnificent stained glass window installed in 1903, designed by a man called Louis Comfort Tiffany of the Tiffany Glass and Jewellery Company of New York. It's worth going into the church just to see that. It's one of the public buildings in the centre of Edinburgh which is absolutely free to get into. Most of the churches you can just walk in. There was seeing in the centre of the town. Most of the galleries, most of the museums in Edinburgh are absolutely free. There's only a couple you have to pay for. John Knox House, as if the Church of Scotland weren't rich enough, will charge you to get into John Knox House. And the Royal College of Surgeons, they charge you to get into their medical museums. And the third church coming up on the left is St John's Episcopal. This church does great work on humanitarian causes, notably at the moment modern slavery and the plight of refugees. And it's got a huge connection, this church, to Joan Baez. Joan Baez's mother was from Edinburgh. Her grandfather was from Edinburgh, and he was a clergyman in this church. I used to love going to see Joan Baez when she came to Edinburgh, and she always spoke really fondly of the city and of her Edinburgh family and of this church. We're going to turn to our left into Lothian Road, and we're coming to bus stop number 2 for the financial centre and Lothian Road. Anyone for this bus stop? No one for here. Thank you very much, Louise. Now, looking down to St Cuthbert's churchyard here on the left-hand side, some famous people buried in that churchyard. John Napier, the man who came up with logarithms, which they tried in vain to teach me when I was a child. I've never had to use them, surprisingly. Also, Thomas de Quincey is buried down there, the man who wrote the opium eater. And Charles Darwin is buried in that churchyard. Now, admittedly, it's not that Charles Darwin, it's a different Charles Darwin. It's his uncle, who died aged 19 as a student in Edinburgh. There's no famous nephew. He came to Edinburgh as a student as well and studied medicine for about 6 months until he discovered the sight of blood made him faint. Changed his course and changed the course of history. Coming up Lothian Road on your right hand side, that's the brand new, almost, financial centre for Scotland, and they've done it really well. Lovely scale to the buildings, they're attractive buildings, and it's a great place to walk through. They've made it interesting, which you can't always say about financial districts in towns. Coming up on the left hand side, we've got the entertainment, or one of the entertainment areas of Lothian Road. This is the theatre district in the middle there, the fabulous Usher Hall, which is Edinburgh's premier concert hall. On either side of it there are 2 theatres, the Traverse Theatre and the Royal Lyceum Theatre. On your right hand side, the Film House, 3-screen cinema. Art House Films also shows mainstream films. If you go in there, you don't have to go to a film. They've got an excellent cafe bar, which is inexpensive, and they would be delighted to see you. Woody Allen, when he used to have films premiered, they were always premiered at Film House in Edinburgh during the Edinburgh Film Festival. On the other side of the road, the Odeon, another cinema. That building is a 1920s Art Deco building, and before it was erected, that was the end of the Union Canal. It runs from Glasgow to Falkirk and then Falkirk to Edinburgh, and it finished here. If you go down that street, Morrison Street, on your right hand side, you'll come to Fountain Bridge, and Fountain Bridge is where Sean Connery was born. It was his birthday last week. Of course, he wasn't celebrating it this year. We'll be turning to our left, and we'll be talking briefly more about Sean Connery in a few minutes' time. Lothian Road runs from the West End all the way up to Tower Cross, way ahead of us. It's just over a mile in length, and it's restaurants and pubs. Dish, deep fried Mars bar. Right, they get a Mars bar, they wrap it in batter, and they fry it in the oil where the chips and the fish are being fried. You must try it. It's absolutely disgusting. Right? Have you tried it, sir? You tried it? You probably like it, right? Because you're young. I'm old, right? As you eat it, you can feel your arteries clogging up. You have it with a tin of Iron Brew, our national drink, apart from whiskey, the bright orange soda juice, we call it, full of chemicals. It is delicious.
Oh. Sit down, going to start rushing.
Oh, going to stop, going to know. How are you?
Hello. Fine,
Hello.
thank you.
Welcome on board, ladies. Yes, Iron Brew is lovely. Don't feed it to children. They will sleep standing up with their eyes wide open. It's quite good fun, actually. Feed it to a child and just watch them. Now, if you go to a fish and chip shop in Edinburgh, don't ask for salt and vinegar. No, that's vulgar. We have salt and chippy sauce. It's brown sauce. It is the sauce of the gods. absolutely delicious. So here we are, we're heading round, and if we look to the statue of David Hume, look at his toe,
Open map.
bright
So we
and
know where we are
shiny.
going.
Poor man, poor man.
Magnus map.
So Edinburgh,
Map.
we are sitting on another bridge. And we're very high up above the Grassmarket, and you can tell how high up we are if we look left and right, especially to the right, beyond the scaffolding. Thanks, Lewis. That's how we slow down there. Woo! I'm taking you down there in a second.
Okay.
Grassmarket.
Okay.
Harry Potter fans on board. Yes, we're still with me. We've still got Harry Potter fans on board. Yes, I knew it. Here's the Elephant House Cafe on the right hand side. It's red in colour. It's closed at the moment, but it's known as the birthplace of Harry Potter. This is where J.K. Rowling did some writing at the start of her career. She drew inspiration from this area. Now, the last time I was in that cafe, there was a notice board that you could write messages to the author. Aha. Do you know what someone had written? Lord of the Rings is better. No, don't like that. Don't like it. Frankenstein's good pub on the right hand side, folks. Go in there every so often. It's all
You took a
smoky,
wrong seat.
dramatic music, and the monster comes down from the ceiling. It's pretty good fun. You can go downstairs to the crypt and have a drink in the crypt, which is just strange. Has anyone heard of Greyfriars Bobby, the wee dog? He slept on his master's grave for some 15 years, and here he's here on the right hand side. See his bright shiny nose? People rub his nose for luck. I do not know why. There he is. And while he was sleeping on his master's grave, the council built a wee house on top of the graveyard for him, and they gave him the freedom of the city. The dog could vote. The dog could vote before women were allowed to vote in Edinburgh. Coincidence, but the area to the left of the bus is Potter Row.
Okay.
As you can see, Edinburgh is a very residential city. People live within the town. The houses here on the right-hand side are called tenement flats, and we do not have manufacturing or industry within the town. So folk live right in the middle, kind of in the middle of the town. It's great. We have 75% of our buildings are Grade A listed, which means we can't touch them. We have more Grade A listed buildings than London. And we have more trees per person than any other city in the UK. The building here on the left-hand side is the old hospital, the sick kids. It's getting converted. Florence Nightingale had a hand in its design. And the building here on the right is Hogwarts. This is a school. Imagine going to school there, with the castle right behind. And there's more houses on the right in the middle of the town. Fantastic. The large building coming into view on the right hand side is our art college. This is where Sean Connery did life modelling in the 50s. Woohoo! But this area was Tanner's Close. Have you heard of the body snatchers? Back in here, this is where they plied their trade. They were not body snatchers, they were mass murderers. They took you out and got you drunk. Then they took you back to their house where you would be suffocated. And then they sold your body to the medical establishment for dissection and research. They got £10 for a fresh body. £2 for a smelly one. That made that up. They fell out. Here term state's evidence. Burke was caught, he was tried, he was hung. Then the good people of Edinburgh decided an open dissection was required. Thousands, a letter written in his blood, and a book made of his skin is in the medical museum. If that's your thing, enjoy. It used to be here on the left hand side, and it's been replaced by this monstrous building. Can you tell this is a government office? First ever fire station in the world on the right hand side. It's called Dragonfly. It is a cocktail bar. There we go. So the next stop is at the Grassmarket, the original marketplace of Edinburgh. And this is where the goods used to be traded. It is also the scene of the executions. Now Maggie Dixon was hung here. I will show you where. Maggie Dixon's only crime was that she gave birth to a stillborn baby, so they hung her. Then the medical students fought for her body, but her friends got her body, put it in the coffin and took it to the graveyard. When they were lowering, look, does anyone off here, just let me know. When they were lowering the coffin into the grave, they heard this from inside the coffin. She survived her execution. Double jeopardy. She went on to live 40 years, she remarried and had more children. And she was known as Half-Hanged Maggie from that day on. She used to walk about like this. No, she never. She was hung. Here, I'll show you where. It's a raised platform. There's a pub called Maggie Dixon's. See these people are standing? And there's a shadow of the gallows on the floor. Now they used to rent the windows out here for a penny a day to watch a good execution because they didn't have Netflix. And they used to drink a lot of gin. And the next day they were very unwell, because this is where the phrase hangover comes from, the day after an execution. So if you have a hangover, I was at an execution yesterday, Jim. Oh, it was a good one. We're going to take you up Candle. Churchyard has a very high mound because there are over 500,000 people buried in this churchyard on the right. The graves are shallow. During periods of heavy rain and storms, bones stick up through the grass. I kid you not. It is like a Michael Jackson Thriller video walking through there at night. Now I've got both ears, remember, so I'm telling the truth. And as I say, this is Candlemaker Road. This is where the candles used to be made. The building is 500 years old, and unbelievably, it is still here. It is on, just coming into view on the right-hand side where these flowers are. And as we pass the entrance to Greyfriars Churchyard, on the right, you'll see the grave of the wee dog, Greyfriars Bobby. If we look up here, you can see where the flowers are, and that's his grave.
Okay.
The building in front of the bus with the red door is the Bedlam Theatre. That's the biggest student-run theatre in the UK, and it's built on the site of an old lunatic asylum. I quite like that. I don't know why. So we're going past Potter Row again. We're just doing a wee burley so we can go down another street, but it gives me the opportunity to show you more things. On the left-hand side, this ornate building, the large one, is McEwan's Lecture Theatre. This is a lecture theatre for Edinburgh University. And the building next to it, with the archway, is our medical school. You see where students go to learn to become doctors. Charles Darwin went there. But he was going to be a rubbish doctor. Every time he saw blood, he fainted. Kirk's skeleton is in the tower on the left-hand side, looking down on us. And the bar here on the right-hand side is called Doctors. You can see the sign, it's really good in there. It's got a doctor's bag in the sign and a stethoscope. This is where students go. I was there, I'm not a student, I was there, too old for that. I was there a week past Thursday in Doctors. And my wife phoned me and she goes, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm at the Doctors." Was I lying to her? No. Does anyone like traditional Scottish music? Fiddle music? There is a bar coming to view on the left-hand side. It is called Sandy Bells on one side of the wall, the Forest Hill Bar on the other. If you go there tonight, it's traditional Scottish folk music. It is free. Fiddle music. Billy Connolly, the comedian musician, has performed here many times. There it is there, left-hand side. Brilliant place to go. The next stop is at the museum. Here's our museum here. You'll see a large structure sticking out the side. There, weird thing. It's a filing drawer. It looks like a filing drawer pulled out of the museum. Now, the next stop is here. We're going to stop here. It's great for kids. There's a very beautiful lady who lives in this museum. Dolly the sheep, the first cloned mammal. Did you know she was named after Dolly Parton, the singer? And if you push her nose, she'll sing 9 to 5. No, she doesn't. She doesn't. She sings Jolene. Get it right.
That sounds better.
This is your stop. We'll be stopping here. You're going into the museum. It's brilliant. Going to the top left to the top. Here's the entrance here. It's open till 5 o'clock. and it is free.
National Museum है.
Thanks,
Free
say hello to
entry.
Dolly for me.
I'm just checking your ears and one's false, is it?
Sorry?
One of your ears false.
Oh, you should be doing this tour. Do you do stand up? Oh, you do have to live with them. It must be a nightmare. Thank you very much. Enjoy the museum. Cheers. Take care.
This is famous.
Is one of your ears false?
Very famous.
I've never been asked that, but
This
it's a
is
good line.
famous.
That's a good one.
It's a good line.
This
I
place
love all
that
these
is
wee
famous.
sayings from Edinburgh, like graveyard shift, earmarked, hangover, hangover. Would you like another one? Right, okay. Beneath our feet is where the stage of plague were quarantined. Now, their idea of quarantine wasn't like our COVID. You know, sit in your house and watch telly for 2 weeks. They used to brick you up and leave you to die. Most of the doctors survived. Now, we know now that the plague was born on the backs of fleas. They thought it came through the air. So the doctors wore thick leather suits that went down to the ground. They wore a big hood with a big beak, and they shoved this beak full of herbs and spices. So they thought when they breathed, the air, miasma, the bubonic bubis plague, came through the air, and it stopped them. And it did stop it. But the reason it stopped it, it was because they were wearing a spacesuit. The fleas never got through to bite them. Most of the doctors survived.
First we go.
And in Scotland and elsewhere, when we go to the doctors, we say we're going to see the quack.
Yeah, quack.
Don't know if you've heard that. It's coming up interview on the I've lost my voice. What am I going to say?
Here,
Jim?
Magnus, we are
We're
coming.
going to
This is a
the
famous place.
on the left and the right. Look down here. This is Cowgate. This is where they used to drive the cattle into the old town.
Okay.
So, the church, you know what I was telling you about, you're dishonest, you used to get your ear nailed to the church. Here's the church here on the left hand side, you'll see the spire. It is called Tron Kirk. Tron means scales, Kirk means church. If you look round, you'll see some ears still sticking to the door. Missed that? Right, quick story. Act of the Union was an agreement between Scotland and England. It was supposed to be signed 1712. They tried to stop it at the palace, so they chased them up the road. Do you know where it was actually signed? Physical location. Ladies' toilets of Bella Italia. That's where the physical location, that's where our two countries became one. It wasn't a Bella Italia back then, obviously. I think it was a Pizza Hut. The next stop is on the Royal Mile. Now, the Royal Mile, we had the first ever
Royal Mile.
skyscrapers in the world. The buildings came up 14 stories, almost touching. And then 6 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock at night, before
Royal Mile
tipping
is
their
very
waist onto the
famous
street
place.
below, they used to shout Gardaí Lou and tip their waist onto the street. Now, if you were stupid enough to be on the street at those times, you had to put your hand up and shout, put your hand, otherwise you were going to get it. Approximately 250,000 people lived on this block, alone. They didn't leave the city once in their entire life because they could not afford to pay the tax to come back into the city. So this was the end of their world. They knew nothing that what was outside the city wall. There used to be a big wall here. So you can imagine living on your street your whole life and you didn't know what was at the end of the road. You had no idea. This is why there is a close. Close comes from the word enclosure, meaning strip of land. There's a close here on the right hand side called the World's End Close. This was the end of their world. There used to be a wall here. Flodden Wall, named after the Battle of Flodden. Was 1532. It wasn't our finest hour. 18,000 men from Edinburgh were killed on the first day. As a result, the people of Edinburgh decided to build a wall around the city. It took them 41 years to build it. Still here today. It's a quick look, I'll show you. As we move over on the right hand side, you'll see a wall. Down the dip above a grass verge. Now the thing about this wall that's so sad, you can't see it from here. There's the wall here on the right. The bricks used to build this wall are small because it was the women and children that built the wall. All the men were dead. Terribly sad. This is Canongate, a different town. Canon as in religious figure, gate as in walk. This is the religious walk from the palace all the way up to the castle. So there's a balcony coming into view this time on the right hand side of the bus. You will see this ornate, beautiful balcony. This is where members of the royal family used to stand and watch people on their way to their executions. And when they passed underneath, they used to spit on them. How charming is that? I don't think you'd be bothered because you think you were on the way to the, you know, but it was Maggie Dixon, she was on for a good thing anyway. But there's the balcony here on the right hand side. The next stop is at Canongate Church. Here's the old tax office and jail on the left, all rolled into one. That's another good idea. And Canongate Church here. If anyone like off, let me know. This is where Her Majesty goes. Charles Dickens used to go there. Did you know he was dyslexic? And he read a gravestone in here, Ebenezer Scroggy, mailman. He read it as Ebenezer Scrooge, mean man. That's where Christmas Carol started. Ebenezer Scroggy was a very... The next stop is the best stop at the bottom of the Royal Mile for the palace. Coming into view on the right hand side you can see our Parliament. The first building is a sort of yellow in colour. On the first floor you'll see a wee Scottish flag. That's Nicola Sturgeon's office, our First Minister.
Scottish Parliament.
And also coming to view is our new Parliament, designed by Enrique Morales from Barcelona. Unfortunately he passed away before it was finished. So his wife Bernadetta finished it on his behalf. But you see here on the right hand side, see these unusual shapes over the windows? When they were putting them up, I thought they were hair dryers. They're not, they're curtains. It's so you can look into an office of a member of Scottish Parliament, MSP, and watch them work. Never seen it to this day. Let's have a wee peek into a window and see if we can see them working. Hello there, good afternoon. The cost of the Parliament, the estimate was a huge £20 million. The final bill was £440 million. And you can go in to visit it. Please do if you have time. Here's the biggest cantilever in Europe, the biggest building cantilever. And here we have the palace in front of the bus. This is what I love about Edinburgh. We've got the palace, the Parliament and council housing all within one bit. People that live here, their neighbour's the Queen. Look down to the left, we see the palace with the ruined abbey to the bottom. Now the royal family use the palace a lot. It's just a working palace. Do you know what? It's just a royal Airbnb. That's all it is these days. I'm going to take you into the royal park now. We know it's a royal park because there are crowns on top of the lampposts, left and right. Here's the wee crowns. Look at that. Hey, friends, welcome to the Royal Park with the palace on the left hand side, and we've got the railings with the gardens beyond. This is the biggest open space within any European city. It's got 3 hidden lochs up there, and you can climb to the top of Arthur's Seat. Don't do it today because it was raining yesterday and it gets slippy. It's not worth it. The next stop is our Dynamic Earth. It's a visitor attraction. It's about James Hutton. He was from Edinburgh. He is known as the father of geology. And if you go down into this exhibition, you go down in an elevator to the formation of the planet. There's an earth, you'll experience an earthquake, temperate zone, rainforest, iceberg, and you exit via a 40 cinema. The cliffs on the left-hand side, Salisbury Crags, they were quarried, and the stone was taken away to pave the streets of London. So if anyone's in London, you might be working on Edinburgh. Who knows? It's a huge park. Now I don't know if anyone plays Grand Theft Auto. If anyone's heard of that game. It's made by a company called Rockstar North. And this is Rockstar North on the left hand side. This is where this video game streams from. I have never played it. Never ever played it. I discovered a new game called Pac-Man. Have you heard of it? You get chased by ghosts. And there's also a new one called Space Invaders. I can't wait to try that. So this is Stop for the Dynamic Earth. It was built as part of our Millennium celebrations. It's a concert venue in the evening, but it's really good fun if you go. If you like geology, but it's for the afternoon out, it's quite good fun. You see the roof of the palace to the left. Don't think anyone's staying. Nope. It's the Scottish standard that's flying at the moment. If there's the members of the royal family, it would be the royal standard that would be flying. So I mentioned our festivals earlier on. In August, I've come to that. Amazing. So we are on Waterloo Place. This is named after the Battle of Waterloo. Now I make it 2:30 exactly. And if we look at the clock tower on the Balmoral Hotel in front of the bus, it says 2:34. The clock is set 4 minutes fast, deliberately. Do you want to know why?
Why?
Someone said train station. Yes, it's so you don't miss your train. And it has been set there since 1902. And so no one misses their trains. This is Waterloo Place, named after the Battle of Waterloo. And by a strange coincidence, I'm going to show you a statue of the Duke of Wellington. You'll see him sitting on his horse on the right hand side, and if you look at his right arm, he's pointing. He's pointing over here, that's Mass Street. The large building he's in front of here on the right hand side is our Registrars of Scotland. This is where all our births, marriages and deaths are recorded. I just like to call that building Hatch, Match and Dispatch. Welcome back to the new town. It's 400 years old, but it's still new to us. Designed by James Craig. He was 24 when he designed this city. The first city on a grid pattern. All the streets are named after the Hanoverian royal family, and they run alphabetically. I had people from Edinburgh on my tour last week, and when I said that, they went, "What?" I'm in Castle Frederick Hanover. They never knew. They stayed here all their lives. They never knew the streets are alphabetical. Scott Monument again. The statue here is David Livingstone, I presume, on the left. The next stop is on Frederick Street. If anyone like off, let me know. Yeah. And as we go along Princess Street, I'm going to show you something now. This is one of my favourite parts of the tour, because as coming into view on the left-hand side, you'll see the gallery. But on top of this pristine, precise Greek temple building, you'll see a massive statue of Queen Victoria on the roof. You can see the Sphinx either side, the Greek and Roman columns, and the huge statue, Queen Victoria, on the roof up here. Yes. Now this statue was supposed to be in London. And when Queen Victoria first saw it, she did this. She looked it up and down and she went, "Makes me look fat." Ship it up to Scotland and put it out of the way. Look where they put it, on top of the gallery. It's a wonderful story. I think it's a lovely statue. It's really nice.
Yes,
but
beautiful.
Compare it to the designed by this guy called Playfair, who did most of the buildings in the new town. The building is so precise, and there's this muckle thing on top of the roof. It's great. The building here on the left, you can see the white building, that's the Camera Obscura, it's near the castle. It's really good to go in. It's a Victorian attraction. They project Scotland onto a table. It's project Edinburgh onto a table. So there's Queen Victoria, happy days. And we're on George Street.
ਉਮੀਦ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਵਲੌਗ ਪਸੰਦ ਆਇਆ ਹੋਵੇਗਾ ਤੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਆਪਣਾ ਨੈਕਸਟ ਵਲੌਗ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮੈਂ ਪਾਵਾਂਗੀ ਉਹ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਫਿਰ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਮੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਕਰ ਰਹੀ ਹਾਂ ਉਹ ਐਡਨਬਰੀ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਵਾਕਿੰਗ ਦੇ ਉੱਪਰ ਹੋਏਗਾ ਸਾਰੇ ਪੁਆਇੰਟਸ ਤੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਤਰਫੋਂ ਕੋਸ਼ਿਸ਼ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਹੋ ਸਕੇ ਮੈਂ ਕੈਪਚਰ ਕਰ ਸਕਾਂ ਤੇ ਕੀਤਾ उम्मीद है फिर कहूँगी कि तुहानू पसंद आएगा। प्लीज़ लाइक सब्सक्राइब करना ना भूलना, शेयर करना ना भूलना, कमेंट करना ना भूलना ते गाइड करना ना भूलना भी किद्दां किवें की होर इंप्रूवमेंट कीते जान। अपना ख्याल रखना, दुआवां च याद रखना। मौसम चेंज हो रहा है, सो प्लीज़ जो भी प्रिकॉशंस ने वो यूज़ करना। गर्मियां सर्दियां दोनों का ख्याल रखना जरूरी है। ख्याल रखियो, टेक केयर, बाय बाय बाय।